Since Mafia the Old Country is out, and I'm not buying it because it's an Unreal Engine 5 game, so it's probably gonna run like us. Two, I don't really buy games day one anymore, except for a special occasion or if there's something it really interests me. So I thought I would revisit the first Mafia. I mean, the remaster, the remake. How do you want to call it? It's mostly a remake because it's the Mafia Definitive Edition. It's a completely different game, so I will call it a remake in this case. That came out in 2020. Now, I never played the original Mafia 1, at least not in its entirety, because when I did try it back then on my PC when it had just come out, I couldn't run it. Like I still remember being able to only get like 15 FPS more or less on my Voodoo 3. So yeah, I'm not playing this. And then I kind of forgot about the game, honestly. But I do remember it being quite interesting and leaving some kind of mark because it was one of the first few games, I think, at least when it comes to free roaming, a la GTA, let's say, where the simulation aspect was more prevalent compared to GTA. Like I think Mafia 1 is one of the first games where you actually have to respect the street signs and all that stuff, because otherwise the police will come after you even for something simple as passing with a red light. So it has always been a franchise that focused more on the simulation aspect, let's say, on creating a believable world and such. Because in terms of gameplay, it's not as in GTA where you can carry thousands. You can carry quite a lot of weapons with you, or you can ride a tank. You can actually only carry a couple of weapons, and there are no extravagant vehicles. Also, because it takes place in the early in the early decades of the 20th century. So it's not like you had access to tanks. Like a civilian really didn't have access to that kind of stuff, even if it worked for the mafia. So it was mostly weapons and melee weapons, knives, and so on. So it's definitely more grounded, more serious in tone than GTA that also has at least had kind of a quirky writing, or try to be ironic or satirical at times. Yeah, but Mafia is more of a serious franchise for big boys, let's say. And Mafia 1 is no different. Even in the remake, Mafia 1 remake, they really try to bump up the whole presentation aspect with of course with the graphics, remaking all the models, and I think they also remade the voice acting and so everything. All the presentation has been redone, the gameplay as well has been redone, because now the game has your standard like average modern AAA game gameplay. So the kind of game that focuses on the simulation aspect nowadays, so similar to the Rockstar games. So the game controls very sluggishly, which I actually think feels even worse than Rockstar games, because it manages to feel even more sluggish than Rockstar games. I don't know how they do it. How they did it. How they fucking made it possible. But yeah, it feels worse than a Rockstar game when you move your character. Not when you aim, but just when you move. Like, you get stuck on objects and geometry very easily because it's like the character doesn't respond very well to the when you move your joys, your analog stick. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but it feels very bad to control, like to move the character. And yeah, so they added also like covers, behind wall covers, and that's it for the most part. Like I said, I didn't didn't play the original fully, but I think these are the most striking differences when it comes to the gameplay, at least, because of course there's also other stuff. They changed a few things about the story and the writing, but from what I understand, it's kind of minor stuff. So nothing really to write home about in that sense. So the game is, I would say, it's mostly a movie game because there's nothing much to do. There's no really any side activities in the first Mafia. It just follow the story missions and that's it. So it feels very cinematic, but also very railroaded because the first few GTAs gave you a slightly more liberty when it comes to how you could complete your mission objectives. But in Mafia, I think in the original was the same, but in Mafia Remastered or Deluxe or Edition, or how we want to call it, Definitive Edition, yeah, you can't really do much of anything other than driving, shooting, and yeah, following the story. There's some stealth, some melee combat, but everything is very basic. It's been done way better in other games. I don't know. It feels like they half-assed this re-release, in my opinion. I did enjoy it. Like, the story is very good, I would say. It's an interesting and mature story. But when it comes to the actual gameplay aspect, I think it's quite mediocre. The shooting feels good overall, but the whole, like I said, the movement and everything feels very half-assed and mediocre. So this is the kind of game that you will only play once, because it really has no replay value. It's not like you can unlock different story paths. No, not really. The story is very limited. It's like set in stone. You can't do anything to change it even slightly. So when it comes to this type of game, I think this will be one of the solutions to making it more replayable. Like, give the player a bit more freedom when it comes to the story, or at least make it possible in the subsequent playthroughs. So like, you first give the player your set story written by you, and then you allow him to change something in the following playthroughs. That will incentivize replayability, in my opinion. But the problem is that developers will probably never do this, because most people play games only once. So yeah, most of the people will not be able to see the branching paths, because they probably will not replay the game. So it's probably not gonna happen ever, unless of course we're talking about an RPG. And I don't know. I think it's weird that they went with this choice of making the character feel like us to control, in shadow of the following the shadow of the Rockstar games. Because I've also been replaying Mafia 2 lately, which I had played only once on 360. And I have to say, even if the game still focuses quite bigly on the simulation aspect, the character, like the protagonist, controls much better in Mafia 2 compared to any other game of the same genre. because this is what I also been saying for quite a while. You really don't need to like to make a game more realistic, let's say, quote unquote, make it more uh, centered around the simulation aspect. You don't really need to make the character move like us. That's not a prerequisite, but the developers keep doing it. So I don't know why. Maybe because most people are being brainwashed into thinking it's better if a game plays like that. But I think it's actually detrimental to the fun, to the fun factor. Because Mafia 2, there's really no delay in your controls or anything like that. It's quite snappy actually. It's probably the snappiest open world game, at least in the modern times, you can say. So like after the PS2 generation, that has been made, and it's fun. Like it doesn't remove anything from the experience. It's still very centered around the simulation aspect. And it feels much better to play than Mafia 1 Definitive Edition, in my opinion. And probably even Mafia 3. I haven't played Mafia 3 because it's kind of woke from what I've seen. Also, the black protagonist. Yeah. But yeah, I assume that Mafia 3 as well, the characters controls like us. So, like I said, this type of game is weird because on one side I like it because I really enjoy the story and the characters, the grounded tone of it, even though like most of the time your missions end up being just big shootouts where you have to kill like 20 enemies all by yourself, so it's not really that realistic. But yeah, these games feel weird because, like I said, on one side I do enjoy them if the story is good, but on the other side they feel I don't know, all this budget, all this like money to make a game that's not really doesn't really have much staying power after that, because there's no, like I said, there's not even any side content at all. Mafia 2 was the same from what I remember, at least on launch. Then I think they added something extra to do, but this franchise has never been very big on the side content, which is something from what I understand they tried to fix with Mafia 3, but yeah, they didn't do a very good job with that. So you pretty much have a free roaming game where you can only do the story missions, and that's it. Like, the story is good. I will say the story in Mafia is probably much better than in any GTA game, but it also feels very limited because there's not much else to do after other than beating the story. So, like I said, it would have been nice if you will change something about the story and your choices, but no. So, as much as I enjoy this franchise, because I enjoyed one, and I enjoyed two as well when I played it, and I'm replaying it now and I'm enjoying it again, I think it's a franchise that, I don't know, it could have been like a serious contender to GTA. Like back in the early 2000s, there was this thing where there were existing franchises that were already popular, but then some other developers will come on the scene and try to make up a rival for that franchise, to that franchise. So think, for example, Gran Turismo. There was Gran Turismo in the late 90s, early 2000s, and Microsoft tried to create a competitor to Gran Turismo, which was Forza Motorsport. And that was not the only case. There are countless examples. Like, for example, even Sony tried that with Killzone. No? They tried to call it the Halo Killer. Yeah, but And it felt like for a little bit, it felt like Mafia could be some sort of GTA, not killer, but maybe competitor. But after Mafia 1, I don't know what happened with the franchise, but yeah, it didn't see another game until 2010. So like Mafia 2 came out in 2002, and Mafia 1 in 2002, and Mafia 2 in 2010. So yeah, then nothing really happened. Mafia kind of fell off. Probably because the studio had some kind of issues, which I don't know because I haven't followed. But yeah, so they really weren't able to capitalize on a possible second spot, at least when it comes to this type of games, because the Mafia franchise has a very distinct identity compared to GTA, so it feels completely different, even in tone. Mafia is more serious, while GTA is more ironic. But no, I don't know what happened, like I said, but they weren't able to do that. They took too many years to make a sequel, and then also even more time, I think, to make a third game, which ended up sucking. Now there's this new game out, but I don't think I'll play it until at least not until I see it for very cheap. So not anytime soon, probably. But as a franchise, it's one of those franchises that it feels like it has been a wasted. There's a lot of wasted potential. Could have been much more, but it was never able to come on top, because Forza sort of ended up topping Gran Turismo, but Mafia really never did anything even remotely similar with GTA. So, but the franchise is enjoyable as long as you don't pay the game too much, and you temper your expectations. I think the game is very enjoyable. The stories are much better than in GTA, even though the first two can feel a little bit cliche because they share some similarities, but other than that, I think it's a franchise worth playing, at least the first two. But yeah, let me know your thoughts about the franchise. What do you think about it, and all that stuff? Because I hadn't replayed them in a long time, and I'm still enjoying them. So it's definitely worth something, even though they lack in terms of gameplay, but they make up for it a little bit with their story. So like I said, let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you soon. Bye bye, guys.